a joyful event ended up in the hospital where we went to the pediatrics to see if how they can get the alcohol out of my system. So they did it, and I was alive. Nothing happened. So my mother was able to come back home. My parents were able to come back home with me. And starting from that day, if my parents were not naive like I was also, we think that it was just a mistake. She didn't know, but it was not a mistake. That was planned. That was something planned in the spiritual realm. That was supposed to take me out on that day, but I didn't die. And because they didn't want something like that to repeat itself, everything that was done against me now will happen in the spiritual realms. God had also revealed to me that while I was still a baby, sleeping in the crib, my family, that blood relative, were starting getting into my pants spiritually. Imagine your own blood getting in the pants of your baby girl. That is something God revealed to me now. My parents didn't know that at that time. Anyway, while I was growing up, at a certain point, my father will die. My father we joined our Creator. I was 14 at that time, and blood relative will double. I think at that time they doubled the witchcraft. Let's say they went to a different level of witchcraft, a very high level of witchcraft, because when my father died, he can no longer act as my protector in the spiritual realms. That's where I realized that my father, even while he was sick, he was still fighting with those people in the spiritual realm, trying to protect me. Fighting with his prayers. So his prayer were acting as a kind of barrier to the witchcraft that was that they were doing against me. So the impact was there, but not as much as it was supposed to be. And I still have God on my life. I grew up with all those witchcraft against my life. And the thing is, by doing witchcraft on my star at the beginning of my life, those blood relatives, he halted my path. It's just only through that they can be able to use my blessing, because normally everybody that comes, that is born on earth, every human being has a purpose. So God gives you a star or a blessing at the beginning, like when you are born, because he wants you to achieve that purpose. But what my family forgot is, when you are a believer, like me, when you are a good person who do good and promote good, like I was doing, God will still be blessing you in the spiritual realms. So at a certain point, they noticed that even if they were using my blessing, God was still blessing me. And he was denying them access to those blessings in the spiritual realms. That's where they wanted me dead badly. And what was happening is, despite the fact that other people were using my light, they were using my energy, and left me with crumbles, I was still thriving. I was still getting the best out of it. So I had a bumpy road, like my life was not easy. There was always something coming in from nowhere when I was doing something. So what I developed to transcend all those difficulties in my life was, I developed what I call the worst case scenario. So I was never on one thing. I also had many plans in my pocket. So for example, I will say, okay, I want to do something. That is what I want. That is the best outcome I want for that thing. Maybe it's for my life. It's just for my life in general. Even for my studies, for my life in general, for something, I say, okay, that's what I want. So instead of me just focusing on that one, I will give it focus 100%. But I will always have other plans. I will always tell myself, okay, what if that doesn't work? What if it doesn't work like I want? Or what if it doesn't just work? What can I do? So I will prepare option A, B, C, and D. So for example, for my studies, that's how I just become multidisciplinary, because I did multidisciplines in my studies. Because I was in STEM, even from high school. I was doing mathematics, physics, and chemistry. But someday I will wake up and then maybe that math exam was not as good as I wish it to be. So how do I cope with not being so good at that math exam? I needed to be also to have something like French exam or English exam or just history exam. I needed to do well in those parts, like in those subjects, so that the mark I have in my math exam that do not have like a very huge influence on my final mark, like my general mark on all the subjects. So by developing this worst case scenario and always having solution A, B, C, D ready for whatever outcome comes from what I was doing, I was able to be like very good in all the subjects in school. So I was not only being good in math, physics, and chemistry, I was also doing well in French, in English, in history, and all the other subjects we have, except sports. I wasn't good at sports in school. And also in general in life, if I was doing something, because like when I was a student, during holidays, I used to sell things in the market to help my mother. Like I will sell things in the market, like what you see young men and young boys and girls do in the market. You have something on your head, you go around the market selling it, and I make some money. So that's how my life was. And by doing that, I was seeing those blood relatives who were witches and warlocks. They were envious because they say yes, despite everything that they took from me, I was still able to do better than their own children. Always comparing, that I did better than their own children. My parents didn't have so much money, but I was able to travel to Europe. I got scholarship and I got degrees, and I went further in studies, did better than their children. And I'm having a career, I'm doing well in my career, I'm getting international recognition. The children weren't even able to do that. So despite the crumble they left me with, I was still able to do a lot with that, and even doing better than themselves. So they needed to take me out. And they decided that they will take me out so that even the blessing that God was blessing me with in the spiritual realms, that came from that work that I was constantly doing on myself. I was constantly working on myself to be a better person, to be the best version of myself. They will take it. By taking me out, they can see those blessings and use it for themselves. And what they also did is those blood relatives were always going to readers about my life, about my future. And the readers told them that at a certain age, God will start revealing things to me, things they have done to me since I was a baby. So they decided that they had to kill me before that age, before I reached that age. That is where they gang up, all of them, from the mother and the father side, they gang up. And they also called people from all those workspaces. God showed me a meeting that a warlock in chief of my father's side was having with other warlocks from my workspace in Togo. He called them in a meeting in spiritual realm to discuss my killing, my unaliving. Can you imagine? Someone you call family, you even go to, you consider, you give respect to. Sometimes you respect them more than their own children. Planning your death with other people. And so when I left that job position in Togo, because of what was happening, and went to the U.S., the same blood relatives followed me there also to the U.S. And that's where they gang up with also that occultic club that was existing at that workspace. They gang up with them to siphon my energy and still try to kill me, to get me out of the way so that they can steal all my blessings, things that I have worked for. And God showed to me that those people were craving my energy. I mean, they were living off my energy. So, yeah. Not only that, they wanted to be me. They wanted to have my behavior. They wanted to speak like me. They wanted to think like me. I mean, some of them were using my brains. Can you imagine the depth and the level of things that those people were doing to me? And those people, even I call home. People I call home. People I'm supposed to go to. People I'm supposed to find safety in or safety with, were the one who were, in fact, opening the doors to all those witches and warlocks to enter my energetic field and try to kill me. They were the one opening the doors to those past friends, past colleagues, past community members. Those people I'm supposed to find safety with were the one taking my name, my pictures, my clothes to people, different people, trying to analyze me. Can I call them family again? God said never. Can I be close to them again? God said, I don't want, never in your life dare you go close to those people again. Can you imagine people harming you for 30 years, 37 years, and no day, never in their lives have they ever questioned what they were doing? Never in their life have they said, oh, that girl has suffered too much. Let her stop. No, they didn't do that. They were in fact lying against me to other people in the family who were not part of their group. Lying against me, lying against my mother, who is the only parent I have now, not that my father was dead. My father died more than 20 years ago. It was in 2022. And those people were supposed to be family. And from my understanding, family is the place where you feel safe. So the first thing that family is supposed to provide to you is not food, it's safety. When that safety does no longer exist, then it is no longer family. So I also cut ties with all those people. I deleted them from my reality. Those are the people I will never again in my life say hi to. I will see them and pass them. They are the people anyway. Whenever people ask me about them, I say I don't know them. I mean, it's a big family. I don't know the people we are talking about. And some of those people were people who lived with my parents when I was not yet born. My parents were taking care of them, helping them get a foot in their life. And they are the people who will go about telling everybody that my parents were nobody. They were nobody and they helped you get a foot in life. They were nobody and you used their child to be where you are today. If you are so powerful, let's see what you become without my energy. If you are so mighty, when you say after God is me, when you say I have decided that girl will die, you think you are powerful, you think you are mighty, you think you can play God in my own life. If you are so powerful, why are you not able to create someone like me? And as I'm speaking to you, those blood relatives have hired someone to be close to my actual business, to my recent business I have created. Thank you again, and see you next in the surviving witches and warlock transcending traumatic experiences.